Good evening, prospective students for the Princeton University class of 2020. We are excited to have you here hanging out with us tonight for the School of Engineering and Applied Science Google Hangout. I'm here with 4 undergraduate students in the School of Engineering and Applied Science, and I'll have them introduce themselves and speak to their concentration and certificate choices in a moment, but we're here for you tonight. We want to take your questions about the academic opportunities at Princeton, so submit your questions on the Q&A app on the right-hand side of the page. Upvote the questions you like, and we'll spend the next 30 to 45 minutes together. My name is Claire Pinciero. I graduated from Princeton in 2013, where I concentrated in sociology, and I'm an admission officer here at Princeton now. I'm happy to field some questions for you, but this is really your time with our undergraduates. We have some really exciting news at the university. Emily Carter has been selected as the next dean of the School of Engineering and Applied Science. She's a professor of mechanical and aerospace engineering and applied computational mathematics. If you'd like to learn more about her research, I encourage you to check out the article about her on our homepage at princeton.edu. So without further ado, let's hear from our current undergraduate students. Tyler, why don't you introduce yourself, say where you're from, class year, your major choice, certificate, and academic interests.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Claire. My name is Tyler. I'm a senior, class of 2016. I study operations research and financial engineering, or I'll be calling it ORFE for the rest of the chat. I'm from Fort Collins, Colorado, and outside of that, I think academic interest would probably, I'm interested in East Asia, sort of Chinese relations and engineering, business and all of that sort of combined and rolled into one.
Great. Miles?
Hey guys, my name is Miles. I'm a computer science major. We call it COAST here at Princeton, so if you hear me saying COAST, that's what it means. I'm a COAST major from New York City. In addition to the COAST major, I'm also getting a certificate in classical studies, so Latin and Greek are my jam. I'm really interested in the intersection of computer science and languages and how we can use computer science to basically better understand and parse like text that humans can get a better sense of like how to use. So you can do different things with documents you would be able to do otherwise.
Very cool. Jackie, can we hear from you?
Yeah, hi, my name is Jackie. I'm a senior 2016 as well. I'm studying mechanical and aerospace engineering, or MAE. We're really big on abbreviations here. My interests are in energy, so I'm getting certificates in sustainable energy and environmental studies.
Great. And Haley?
Hi guys, I am a junior in electrical engineering, or ELE, and I'm also getting a certificate in applications of computing, so that's basically what we call computer science, the minor. Other than that, I'm interested in a lot of really random academic things. I've taken a lot of classes on comics and graphic novels, and I really enjoyed them. And yeah.
Awesome, great. So let's get started. Again, just a reminder, submit us your questions and upvote the ones you like, and we will answer those for you. So our first question here, how did you decide on your major choice within BSE? Did you know you wanted to study your discipline freshman year? Who wants to take that one?
I can start. I actually came in applying to college wanting to do biomedical engineering, which is not a field that's offered here. So I entered in as chemical and biological engineering. I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do with it. I just wanted to get a feel for the classes. I took the intro classes my first year, and I decided it wasn't really for me. And then I spent this last month of my freshman year, which is right before engineers have to declare their major, kind of shopping around, talking to upperclassmen, and I switched into my current department. And honestly, since then, I've considered switching to all the other types of engineering. I've realized that there's a lot of crossover between them, and so ultimately it didn't really matter for me. But no, I did not come in knowing what I wanted to do.
I think I'll add to that I actually came into Princeton thinking that I wasn't going to be an engineer in many cases. I came in and I did the Bridger program in India, which is something I can't recommend enough. But I kind of during the course of my time there, I actually got a chance to really sort of work with a couple communities and work with a few businesses that were very sort of quantitative and data focused, and I came back really interested in that. and sort of jumped right into ORF as a result of that, because I knew that that's exactly what I was interested in, and I knew that was sort of the curriculum that could launch me into that. I think it's a little difficult your freshman year to really get a full feel of what your major feels like, because you kind of have to get through the intro engineering courses. But my advice is to really sort of stick it out and then kind of take a few of those basic intro courses. And if you're not sure, to try a few ones from each different department, because you have the space and time to do that, and then sort of decide from there.
Yeah, speaking of the intro courses, I can't say enough how the introductory computer science course that I took here really put me on the path to my major, because I had never programmed before. I had no idea what computer science was before I got to Princeton. And when I took COAST 126, was like the introductory programming class that all engineers have to take. I loved it. I thought it was amazing. It was a super fun introduction, and I kind of fell in love with it from there. I didn't actually declare computer science immediately. I declared ORF originally, but as I started taking more computer science classes, I realized like that was what I wanted to do, and that's what I really loved.
And yeah, when I came into the school, I wasn't really sure exactly what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be an engineer. I declared engineer, and I was really interested in electrical engineering just because it was probably the engineering major that I knew the least about. But I really wanted to learn more, and every single class I took made me really interested, and I was really excited to see that there were so many different areas within electrical engineering that you could learn more about, and that's basically what I've done ever since I declared my major.
Great. Those are some great answers. So we have one that's getting a lot of upvotes, and it's asking, can you please describe the process of testing out of intro classes? Is any credit given for AP/IB exams? When, if possible, do placement tests take place? So I'll sort of field that one to begin with. AP or IB credit can be used as a placement measure, so if you score high enough on an AP or IB exam, you may place out of introductory level courses. I would refer you to our AP credit reference table. If you just Google that, you can see the score that you would need in which exam and what course that can place you higher. Just sort of piggybacking off of that, if any of our current students who are with us here tonight, if any of you were able to place out of classes through AP or IB credit, would you be able to speak to that?
Yeah, sure, I can. So I placed out of AP chemistry. I placed out of introductory chemistry and introductory physics here via my AP scores, and that worked for me because the majors I was considering, ORF and COAST, aren't as reliant on those fields, so there wasn't a huge detriment to me for not taking Princeton level chemistry and physics. But I would say that from what I've heard from a lot of friends, that Princeton chemistry and physics, like, they do an amazing job, especially if you're going into CBE or MAE. A lot of my MAE friends tell me that Princeton physics was really helpful for them, like getting oriented to how hard Princeton level math and sciences would be. So if you have AP scores and you think about placing out, but it's in a field you may want to like concentrate in, like if you want to place out of physics and you want to go into MAE down the line, then there is still a benefit to taking Princeton courses, because there's definitely a Princeton physics course that can challenge you in ways that the AP curriculum may not have been able to.
Seconded.
Great. All right, so the next question that we'll go to, I think, really is a great question that sort of is touching upon the liberal arts emphasis that we have here at Princeton. And it's asking, how much time do you have for non-engineering classes?
I'll take this. I guess you kind of have as much time as you want. There are definitely some majors require you to take a lot of classes, and introductory classes your freshman/sophomore year may kind of like start, they kind of prevent you from taking a lot of other random classes, but as you get older and do have fewer and fewer requirements that you still have to do, there are certain classes that a certain number of liberal arts classes that you need to take, and it really gives you an opportunity to try whatever you want.
I can add on to that by saying that I have a lot of cross-disciplinary interests, and I feel like that's pretty common for a lot of people in the engineering school. I found it pretty easy to take classes in other departments. It also, like, interestingly phrased, like non-engineering classes, because you can take non-engineering classes that aren't listed in our like course directory specifically as falling under an engineering department, but have like engineering undertones or like science and math undertones, and they're really interesting ways of like combining some of the liberal arts ideas or classes with the same things that you're learning in your other courses, which is really interesting.
Yeah, I think I'll add that, like, I think the main highlight, in my mind, at least when I came into Princeton and was looking at engineering, was the fact that you can have both a world-class liberal arts education and still do, have a world-class engineering education at the same time. Like, for example, the Princeton Chinese department is second to none, and I was able to work through that entire language learning curriculum on the side of sort of developing my engineering degree and getting through that stuff. And those are opportunities that I'm not sure is available at other schools, but at Princeton are something that is really celebrated and is really presented as available.
Yeah, to follow up on Tyler's point, in addition to choosing between the engineering departments where I wanted to major, I was really just debating about whether I wanted to be a classics major, and that's because I knew that Princeton's classics department is absolutely amazing, and I've had the chance to both be a computer science major and take a lot of upper level class with some really, really amazing people. The fact that there's a lot of room within the engineering school to take these liberal arts classes and develop and let your interests flourish that aren't engineering. It's really been a huge part of my Princeton experience. It's been such a great part of my time here.
Great. So the next one that we'll take is asking, if you need academic help, what are the resources? Peer tutoring, are professors available for questions? Would anyone like to take that?
I can take it so there are an insane amount of resources here for anyone who needs help with a problem set or they want to work on getting ready for an exam. I think the biggest one is probably McGraw tutoring. So there's a center at Princeton where you can go and get help in a lot of the introductory classes to different departments. So you have introductory math class help, introductory physics class or econ class, also Orgo help because Orgo is a really big class here. And you just go there. They're there 4 hours a night, a few nights a week. You just sit there, and there are tutors there to help you. They're really amazing. For computer science specifically, there are computer science lab hours where you can go in. There'll be other students able to help you with your problem sets, and those saved my life when I was still learning how to program. I think the computer science TAs are really amazing. There's also one-on-one tutoring. I know that you can ask for a tutor to help you in a specific subject, and I know a lot of people that use that have said that's really great. So there really is not a lack of options here for whatever you want to do if you need to get some extra studying time.
To add on to that about McGraw, I also used it, and it's really helpful for the first few introductory courses because a lot of people are coming to the TAs for those hours. And I think part of that, not only are there peer tutors that can actually help you learn the material, but you meet a lot of people who are also struggling on the same problem sets, the same assignments, and you can form study groups really, really easily by people showing up and meeting them and trying to figure out how to solve something.
Yeah, entire classes displaced to McGraw study halls together. So you'll literally run into an entire physics class in study hall at once.
That's great. Yeah, so there are tremendous resources at Princeton. There's a lot of assistance available. So the next question that we'll discuss comes from Alden Hunt, and he asks, obviously engineering of any type has a heavy workload. How much time do you find yourself having for outside clubs or activities? Is it possible to involve yourself in a club with a very heavy time commitment? Example, theater with daily rehearsals. I know all of you are very involved in a lot of activities, so who wants to take this one?
I can start. I'm actually involved in a dance group here. We practice 10 hours a week, and we have off-campus performances, and we're competing around the country. So there are a lot of weekends where we're away from campus, and I found it pretty manageable to balance both engineering and that extracurricular activity. In my particular department, which is mechanical engineering, there's a very, very large number of athletes. I'm not really sure why that is, but I know that they're also able to balance having daily practices and doing their problem sets as well. And I think that's a testament to how many academic resources are on campus.
I mean, to go off that, I am a member of the Princeton women's soccer team, and when we're in season, which is in the fall, we have practice every day. Probably takes up at least 3 hours. So there's a way to get everything done. It's not the most fun, but you definitely if you want to do it, then you're going to put in the time and you're going to try to do it to the best of your ability. I mean, I'm in my off season right now, and everything's a lot more manageable. And even in the worst part of my season, when I'm the busiest, there's still ways where you can get things done. And a lot of it is due to the resources that Princeton has, and finding time or making time basically to get all your work done.
Yeah, I think being heavily involved outside of your classes, even in the engineering department, is not only like something that is possible, but I would say it's almost the norm. I think people, are very involved in academics and they put a lot of work in, but they also usually have at least one or two other things that they're very, very, whether it's their art group or their theater group or their sports or whatever that is, and that's like accepted and encouraged, and that's understood by both your peers and the professors that you're working with. So it is like people are pretty understanding about like if you're gone for a weekend and you come back and you need to reschedule an exam or something like that. So I've always found people to be extremely accommodating with that stuff.
Yeah, I think that also speaks to how accessible professors are here, that they'll understand if you had a race or you had a match or you had a super huge extracurricular thing that you couldn't get out of, and maybe you need an extra day to like complete a problem set or to turn in something. Just as long as you're keeping track of all the things that you have to do and communicate to all the people that you have things due for, then a lot of times, I think in every case I can think of, there's going to be a way to make sure that all your work can get done in a timely manner.
Yeah, that's great. So our next question comes from Alyssa Kai, and she asks, what are some opportunities for entrepreneurship/startup culture? And I'm sure all of you are very familiar or will become familiar with the Keller Center that we have on campus, and that is a tremendous resource for entrepreneurship. That's sort of an entrepreneurial hub. Would any of you be able to speak to the opportunities for entrepreneurship and startups at Princeton?
So I know as a freshman, when I was looking for internships for the summer after my freshman year, the Keller Center, which is, as Claire said, like the Entrepreneurship Center at Princeton, has a lot of amazing internships you can apply to. In addition to that, there's also Entrepreneurship Club. We call it E-Club around here. They host so many events related to entrepreneurship. They have hackathons, they have roundtables with entrepreneurs, Princeton alum and otherwise. They have various competitions to encourage people to come up with these ideas, and where you can actually get funding for the idea if you win some of these competitions. So there really are a lot of ways to get involved in entrepreneurship if that's something you want to do.
Yeah, I personally don't have a ton of experience with sort of like, I guess I would call it like extracurricular entrepreneurship, so things like the hackathons or E-Club or anything like that. But I do think the like the Princeton entrepreneurship classes and the courses that come through the Keller Center are some of the coolest courses I've taken, like hands down in my entire life. Like they will bring in like people like active venture capitalists, people who have been in and out of industry multiple times, people who have like started their own companies and sold them for hundreds of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars, and like they'll come in and they'll actually lead a course for the entire semester. And those kind of classes are something that I haven't experienced anyplace else, and it's sort of an opportunity that I think is irreplaceable.
Awesome. So sort of piggybacking off of that, we have a question. Considering the rural nature of the surrounding environment, how easy is it to find internship and entrepreneurship opportunities either during the year or in the summer? I'm sure a lot of you have some pretty great experience. I'm also not sure that I would consider Princeton rural necessarily.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful suburban town, but would any of you like to take this one?
First of all, it's definitely not rural. Like, I'm from New York City. I can get back to my house like in an hour if I'm trying to go fast. But about getting internships for the summer, it's amazing how many resources there are at Princeton. First of all, our career services office is absolutely great. I've been going to them since freshman year. They help me with like resume tips, with pointing me in the right path, like what possibilities are available to me the freshman, sophomore, and junior. Also, the career fairs have been. I don't think I've seen career fairs like the one Princeton has. So throughout the year, there'll be career fairs where companies will just come and they'll give you free things if you like hand them a resume, and they will then like contact you if they go through your resume and they like what they see. But there are so many companies coming in month in and month out, so you will definitely have an opportunity to talk to some recruiters. Like if you really want an internship for the summer, Princeton definitely a hotspot for recruiters to come to.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like a pretty like four-sided question. I know when I was like coming into college, I like the thought of like getting an internship or like getting a job was just so far removed from my mind. But I also think it's one of the things that Princeton offers that like you really can't find at another university, just because people know Princeton students are really quality students. They know that they're very hard workers. They know they're like incredibly smart and capable people. And so what you get is you just get this deluge of companies who are coming in and looking for people to hire. And that's something that I didn't really consider beforehand, and I'm kind of now coming to terms with. And it's a very cool thing. It's a very cool opportunity. And Princeton can really put you on a lot of interesting, different, cool paths when you're leaving it.
Yeah, and something that these guys didn't really mention, so I'm just going to add on, is the fact that we have a huge alumni network that really wants to help you out. Going to career services, that's one of the things they tell you. Try to connect with alumni and like build your own network so you can have a lot of opportunities that you wouldn't get anywhere else. And there are just so many people who are willing to help you once you move on from Princeton, and even during the summer when you're trying to find internships.
Yeah, I think all the resources that have been addressed already are like super important for helping to find internships or like other opportunities for the summer. I don't know a ton of people that are like working while at school just because the course load and extracurriculars are a lot of work. I know people are able to do research with like Princeton professors on campus, and that is another really great resource for finding jobs in industry or like in entrepreneurship as well. Some of my professors that I've been able to like work with either through classes or through research have worked in industry themselves, and they have connections as well, which has been really useful.
Yeah, that's great. And sort of piggybacking off of that, we have a question from William Lynn, and he's asking, how did you go about finding research opportunities at Princeton? I'm interested in doing something at the Lewis Sigler Institute and other labs, but I'm not sure how to approach that. So it's worth noting that independent research is sort of institutionalized at Princeton through the senior thesis and the junior paper, but there are also plenty of research opportunities beyond that. So would any of you be able to speak to that?
I mean, I can just say about research, or talk about research as an upperclassman, and I'm not a senior, but the electrical engineering department has a research requirement, so you have to spend at least one summer doing some sort of, or not one summer, at least one semester doing some sort of research. And a couple of my friends have done it during their junior year, and it's pretty cool. Like it's not the most super structured, so you have a lot of independence in choosing what you want to do, especially if you do it before you start your thesis. And there's a lot of resources that you can take advantage of just because you're trying to do something different and trying to do something new and trying to learn at the same time. I think it's a really cool process.
I think I will know that I think for engineering that the amount of research people do and like how much the department really prioritizes it really varies by department across the engineering school. So in ORF, you don't see a ton of kids doing that much research. There are definitely kids who are involved in. There's a couple of different ORF labs on campus, and they are involved, and they're very heavily involved. It's one of the things that they do, but it's like the majority of the class won't do research until they actually engage in their senior thesis, when they work with a professor one-on-one, and they work over the course of a year to sort of put together this behemoth of a research project that I'm still working on. So you can do that as well, but I would say it varies across the department.
Great. So the next question that we'll take asks, how practical versus theoretical is the Princeton computer science curriculum? And does the intro curriculum prepare students for internships in Silicon Valley? And I would also like to just add on to this question. Miles, I'm going to direct this at you,
Sure.
Our computer science concentrator, but if you could also talk about the difference between AB course and BSE course. I know that's a question that gets asked a lot, and I would love to hear your insight on that.
Yeah, sure. So AB is like non-engineering and BSE is engineering. For computer science, there isn't a huge difference between the two. It mostly comes down to the classes you take outside the computer science curriculum. So the School of Engineering requires you to take two semesters of math, 2 semesters of physics, a semester of chemistry, classes like that. And the School of Arts will require you to take certain distribution requirements that engineers don't have to fulfill entirely. But in terms of the computer science class you take as AB versus BSE, it's the same curriculum. You have to take 3 intro classes and then 8 classes as an upperclassman. And I guess so there were two other questions. One is how theoretical the computer science department is. There is a fair amount of theory emphasis in the department, so you have to take a certain number of theory classes before you graduate, and it's something you may hear a lot. The computer science at Princeton is very theoretical, but I find that I do get a lot of practical applications. Like there's a class I'm in right now where I just have to build my own app as the final project. It just teaches me how to be a software engineer and the different types of APIs and packages that are available to me, and I feel like that's really good real-world training. So if you want to have a theoretical bent, there are a lot of ways you can do that. There are a lot of professors who are like solely in theory. There are a lot of like very, very fun theoretical classes that you can take. But if you want to do something else, if you want to do something more applications-based, then that is definitely there for you. You're definitely not restricted to just a theoretical component if you come to Princeton Computer Science. The other question about internships, if you want to work over the summer and you're a Princeton Computer Science student, it's definitely not particularly tricky to find people that are interested in you. To be honest, like when you go to career fairs and you're computer science students, people perk their ears. It's really great. You can definitely just go to career fairs and just start handing out your resume. You can talk to professors and see what's there. But finding a job for the summer as a computer science student here is definitely like it's a pretty chill process. I found that I've been trained very well. The classes here, especially the intro classes, have given me more than enough to perform really well, both in interviews and to perform like on the job as a programmer.
Great answer. So the next one, this is sort of going to cover two questions that we're getting about study abroad opportunities for engineers. So I'll highlight the top one. Are there any engineering study abroad programs available to Princeton engineering students either during the summer or during the academic year? Among all of you, we have some pretty unique study abroad experiences actually. Tyler, if we could start with you, if you could sort of speak about your experience with Bridge Year and then go from there, that would be great.
Yeah. So study abroad, or at least being abroad, has been a huge part of my Princeton experience. I came in, I applied to the Bridge Year program. I got in and went to India. Like I said before, I can honestly recommend nothing more highly at this school than that. Like if you come to Princeton for no other reason than to give yourself a shot at that program, then I recommend you do that. So I came in and spent a year in India doing sort of volunteer work, integrating myself into the community, getting to know the classmates who I was there with. I got to go trekking in the Himalayas for like a month at the end. It was an absolutely phenomenal experience, and like could not be a better start to your freshman year. And then after that, I came out of that still very interested in technology and Asia in general. Sort of started studying East Asia and China when I got back to campus, and ended up spending the summer after my freshman year in Beijing, and then the summer after my sophomore year in Shanghai and Hong Kong. So both of those experiences were facilitated through Princeton sort of professors and connections. The first one was Princeton in Beijing, which is like a phenomenal language program that we have here on campus, and then the second year was through a connection we had through the Fung Foundation. Both of those were really, really easy to set up. It was like a very low stress thing. It was kind of like I want to go to Asia, and it happened, and they were all like very well funded, so it's definitely, there's no like the financial difficulty of it wasn't really a thing, and Bridge Year is totally free, so there's that. So in terms of studying abroad during the summer and studying abroad sort of outside of the academic year as an engineer, you have all the same opportunities as every other Princeton student, and it's very, very easy for you. In terms of studying abroad during the school year, it's definitely possible that I've found. I have some friends who have done it. It does require some like pretty careful like time management of your courses, just because as an engineer you have to take so much, and there's a lot you have to push in there. So you really have to be careful about when you're taking what. That way you can sort of make sure you set aside a full semester where you can be abroad.
Great. And Jackie, I know you have some study abroad experience. Would you be able to speak to that as well?
Yeah, sure. Study abroad, as Tyler said, has been like a really big part of my Princeton career as well. It makes me really happy to be able to talk about it. So I am not in Orphe, and I know that there are there are maybe more restrictions depending on like which engineering department you're actually in. As a mechanical engineer, and having changed my major a couple of times, it was not as difficult as I might have imagined. I was afraid that because I made up my mind on my department too late in the game, or because I didn't know I want to study abroad when I came in as a freshman, that I wouldn't be able to go. But Dean Bogutsi, who was the Dean of Engineering, and I'm sure Emily Carter will as well, was very, very accommodating for me wanting to go abroad, and was actually very excited that I wanted to go abroad, and provided me with like lots of resources and upperclassmen who had done the same thing. Additionally, I was able to do a global seminar, which is an opportunity to take a small class with a Princeton professor and like 15 other Princeton students abroad studying some regional specific topic. And so I was also able to go to India to study kind of like growing up in India, which was like a very unique experience because even though it wasn't related to my engineering coursework, it kind of got me like interested in that part of the world and set me on a path to like studying that further in my Princeton career.
Very cool. So a lot of great and very different ways to go abroad for all students at Princeton and engineers as well. So the next one that we'll take is asking, hello, I was accepted AB, but I recently decided that I want to do engineering. How can I switch over to the BSE program? Thanks. So I'll sort of field this one to begin with. When you apply to Princeton, you apply to the university as a whole. So your choice is non-binding. So you can switch over to the BSE program right when you come to Princeton as a freshman. You're paired one-on-one with a faculty academic advisor, and you can work with your academic advisor to choose your courses and to get you on the right track for your BSE degree. If you are a BSE degree candidate, you declare your major at the end of your freshman year, so you want to make sure that you're getting those courses taken sort of right when you get to Princeton. But if any of you can sort of talk about working with your faculty academic advisor right when you get to campus, if you can remember when you were a freshman coming to campus, sort of being overwhelmed with the academic offerings, and if you could sort of speak about working with your advisor.
Yeah, sure. So you'll meet with your faculty advisor sometime in the week between like finishing your pre-orientation program and actually starting classes, and he or she will sit down with you, and there'll be two other older students, juniors or seniors, to help you pick the classes that you should be taking your freshman fall. If you're going to do BSE, it's a pretty chill time. I mean, there are certain classes you probably have to take, like Intro to Computer Science or an upper level math class, but it's definitely really useful to try to figure out maybe what level of math is good for me, or what kind of class do I want to take that's not engineering, so I don't feel so overwhelmed with just quantitative classes. So the faculty advisor and especially the students can be really useful, and definitely getting input from older students is a really great way to understand like what will work or maybe what won't work for you as you get started.
Yeah, so I mean, I came in and I had a really cool faculty advisor that I got to meet. He was actually an electrical engineering professor, and me and like two other people that actually had him as our faculty advisor all declared electrical engineering. I mean, there's not a lot that you have to do with them especially if you're going to be BSE. Like Miles said, those classes, the intro classes, are kind of chosen for you, and the placement, or other than that, it's just placement. So it's kind of cool to see, like, to get to meet a professor one-on-one and kind of just like learn a little bit more about the school from them. Yeah.
Great. Okay, so the next one is a little bit more specific. It's asking, I'm currently debating between majoring in computer science and Orphe. Orphe seems to overlap a good amount with computer science and economics. How does it compare to these fields? Is it more difficult, and what do most Orphe graduates tend to go into? Tyler, Miles, would you guys like to take this one?
Yeah, I could talk to the Orphe side of that at least. So I think in Orphe there can be a lot of overlap between Orphe and Coast, should you choose that. But Orphe has kind of multiple tracks within it, so you can do something that's a little more like heavy on the econ side of things, and you can do something that's a little more heavy on the Coast side of things. So for me, for example, I've only taken like 2 or 3 Coast classes because that's all I've been interested in, and they haven't even really been the really in-depth ones. So for me, I was able to kind of push that to the side, but I have some very, very good friends in Orphe who are like basically de facto Coast majors, and have taken up it seems like the entire curriculum. I would say in terms of like what ORF graduates do post grad, I think we're like a pretty even split between like finance stuff and Silicon Valley. We get a lot of people who go both directions. I guess my comment on that though is just like I don't think you should be necessarily choosing what you're interested in going on, like studying at Princeton based on where you want to go afterwards. I mean, I have friends who are art history majors who are going to go work at quantitative trading firms. I have friends who are, like literature majors who are going to go work on Wall Street. So you don't need to, like, I wouldn't recommend trying to specialize in ORF because you really feel like that's going to like give you the edge into the job market, because at the end of the day, you're going to have to be spending 4 years like slogging through that curriculum. So you want to make sure it's something that you really, really love and really enjoy on its own right, because the glory and joy of a Princeton education is because you're getting that Princeton label, you can kind of take your pick in the job market regardless of what major you're in. So yeah, that's my 2 cents there, I guess.
Yeah, and following up on that, there can definitely be a lot of intersection between computer science and ORF, or computer science and finance if you choose. So what I really like about the computer science curriculum is that there aren't really any core courses. You can pick and choose for the most part. So, for example, I've taken a few upper-level ORF classes in addition to completing my computer science curriculum. And ORF classes will actually count toward your computer science curriculum, so that's really great. So they definitely really encourage you to be intersectional in terms of your academic disciplines. In terms of where to go after, well, you can imagine in the computer science department we have a lot of programmers coming out, but really I find that so many places don't necessarily need. It's more just about having a quantitative background and being able to think in an analytic way that will help get you a job you want. So you don't have to just be a programmer if you're coming out of computer science. You can go to Wall Street, you can do consulting, you can go found your own startup, you can go work at an NGO. But really just I find that having a quantitative background, learning how to do research on my own, learning how to, I guess, think critically is really what I'm getting out of Princeton, and a big thing I've gotten out of Princeton in general, and especially in computer science, and that's something that will apply to any job. So there's really no limit if you become a computer science major, or ORF major, or whatever have you in terms of where you can go afterwards.
Yeah, I think you guys both touched on really important points. I think something that is so tremendous about Princeton is that there are, so many academic and non-academic opportunities, and it's really about exploring what you are interested in at the time. There are so many opportunities. So sort of speaking about enjoying your Princeton education, I like to pose this question: what has been your favorite class at Princeton and why?
Ooh. That's an easy one for me. I could take my favorite class at Princeton was a class called Radical Innovation in Global Markets, and it's one of those entrepreneurship track classes. And it's taught by this guy named James Shin, who went out and like founded his own company, sold it, then like ended up going to like the Defense Department and working for like state and the CIA and stuff for a while, and had this like very, very interesting background. And he basically he teaches this class that's just like a week by week basis of like, he takes a case study of like something really crazy is going on. So for example, it'll be like building a pipeline across the Caspian Sea, and you sit there with like 35 other kids and you sort of like break this down quantitatively and politically and economically, and you try and dig into the problems and you debate it. And that's the entire class, the entire semester. It's just case studies with this like professor who's really accomplished and sort of has the total perspective on all these issues. And it was really he has the entire class over to his house for dinner when it ends. So it's a nice time.
I can talk. I think my favorite course is probably, it's actually just called like Renewable Energy Systems, specifically because I have energy interests, but I think that the coolest part of the class is that it draws on almost everything else I've learned at Princeton in engineering, and the class is really diverse. So we have like graduate students, we have undergrads, like a few sophomores up to seniors, we have people from like chemical engineering, we have people from ORFE. It's spending like each lecture learning about a different aspect of like implementing these sorts of projects. So we look at a little bit of like the investment part of it, which is kind of like the more finance aspect. We look at like materials, we look at like energy resources. So it's a really cool class to be taking, especially as a second semester senior, to kind of see everything I've learned in the past 4 years come together.
And I'm just gonna go on from that. My favorite class that I've taken here so far, I'm actually kind of still, or I'm still in it. It's called Car Lab essentially, and it's like very notorious among electrical engineers because it is known for the sheer amount of work that you have to do. But the premise is essentially we're building a small car that we can program to basically run around or go around this track. And even though it's probably been my most frustrating class here, like the vindication I feel when it actually works is probably like the most that I've ever felt on this campus.
Yeah, I think that my favorite class was a class that had nothing to do with my academic interests right now. It's called Christian Ethics in Modern Society. So I didn't really have a religious background growing up, and seeing how we were reading all these Christian texts and how they influenced a lot of, things that maybe seemed like kind of secular, like the civil rights movement. Learned like the very heavily Christian background behind that, and like so that was super cool. And just a lot of things I never really thought from this perspective were so influenced by the different texts we were reading, and I thought it was really amazing.
Very cool. It sounds like you guys have taken some pretty neat courses here. So we have just hit the 40-minute mark, so we'll have just one final question before we sort of wrap up. This is one sort of like what Nicholas Kick is asking. If there were one thing that we shouldn't miss at Princeton, what would it be? I'm going to piggyback off that and ask you guys, if there's one piece of advice that you would give to our admitted students, what is that?
I can start. So I'm actually a peer academic advisor right now, which means that I have a lot of like underclassmen coming to me and asking me this question pretty regularly. And the best advice I can give is like to not stress about what you're going to be majoring in specifically, especially not like your first year. It's a really, like, undergrad experience is a really great chance, especially at Princeton, to take courses from a lot of different fields, from a lot of really cool, renowned professors, with peers that are super engaged and interested. And I think that, like, as somebody who has personally never really known what I wanted to do, I've dabbled in a lot of different things, and I've realized a lot of interest in how they connect in different ways. And I think that if I had come in with like a really set plan and had been like, okay, this is what I want to do, these are the classes I want to take in this order, like every semester, which actually does happen. Some freshmen do come in knowing like this is what I want to do. I think you miss out on the like a lot of opportunities of kind of like uncertainty that there might be.
Yeah, I guess the biggest thing for me has been being willing to learn from my peers. I think in high school, I always thought of my peers like people I joke with, and then I actually learn things from the professors or from the teacher there. But here it's like I run into so many amazing and talented people all the time. I remember the first thing I learned at Princeton was like how to juggle, and the kid down the hall taught me that. And trying to learn how to do this programming project, my roommate taught me how to do that. So the amount of things that I've learned and that I've gotten just from like being able to interact with people and allow ourselves to be humbled by how much more my peers know than me about certain things. It's really enhanced my experience at Princeton in ways I never expected.
I mean, to go off of that, I think you really don't understand, or like you don't realize how cool like people here are. They're 100% always doing, like, not only are they doing like academics, but they also have a million other things that they can do or that they have done. And I think part of like one of the most interesting things for me is like seeing my peers or my classmates in like different environments. So I love like going out to different sports teams and watching them play, or watching different dance shows and just like checking that out and trying to get an education in like a different, like more unorthodox way.
And then I guess my advice is what was first and foremost, apply to Bridger, and then I think secondly, like, remember that a lot of life at Princeton happens outside the classroom. I think as an engineer it can be like easy to forget that fact, but at the end of the day, like, I'm not going to remember what I learned in my time series class junior year in 6 months, much less 30 years. But I think a lot of like the connections and a lot of the like sort of like the friendships I've formed and the people I've met are people I'm going to stay in contact with for like the rest of my life, and they're people who are going to be very, very important to me in every regard. And I think that's just hands down the most valuable thing I'm taking away from my Princeton experience, is the fact that I'm leaving with this cohort of just phenomenal friends and supporters. And so make sure you're taking the time to cultivate that and to sort of engage in that.
Very cool. Those are some great words of wisdom from our 4 engineering students who have been here with us tonight. Again, big thanks to you all. So that about wraps up the time that we have here. If you have any more questions, please feel free to email us at uaoffice@princeton.edu, and we will get those questions answered for you. Follow us or share your admit moment and memories at Preview with the hashtag Princeton2020 and hashtag Princeton Preview. And check out the class Facebook page for the class of 2020. Join that group and you can connect with your future classmates and current undergraduates at Princeton. And check out the admitted students website for resources on the Princeton Preview program and for more information about Princeton University. Thank you all for your time. I hope you had a great time learning about engineering at Princeton. And let's get a final wave from everyone.
You should come to Princeton.
Bye.